You're still on World News. Greek trade unions were on a 24-hour strike on Wednesday to oppose government economic reforms, which they say have destroyed the rights and livelihood of workers. The workers rallied in the streets of Athens, calling for the government to change their austerity program, although some workers were doubtful about the power of strikes. Passenger ships and railway services canceled their scheduled routes, while teachers, civil servants, and bank employees stayed away from their jobs. Meanwhile, in central Moscow, more than 70,000 people marched to take part in the annual May Day parade, a tradition since Soviet times. They walked along Moscow's main arteries, backed by the ruling United Russia Party and the All-Russian National Front. The Cyprus parliament voted to accept the European Union bailout plan with only a slight difference. Is this the right decision for the struggling nation?
A controversial plan to bail out Cyprus will live to see the light of day, but it sure wasn't easy. Lawmakers barely approved the controversial $13.2 billion European Union bailout package, which forces the wind down of the country's second-largest bank, and in turn the government will levy a heavy tax on uninsured deposits at a second bank. The passage by the thinnest of margins was met by mixed reaction. Here is Avarov Neophytou of the ruling Democratic Rally Party, Andros Kyprianou of the Communist Party, and Nicholas Papadopoulos of the Democratic Party.
We realize and we understand that the provisions are very tough, but there is no alternative.
Having examined the whole situation in the rest of the countries where MOUs are implemented, our evaluation is that the situation in Cyprus, it will be even worse.
I believe it was the correct decision. There was no other choice. The choice was not between joining a support mechanism. The choice was between gaining financial assistance and bankruptcy.
Some lawmakers may be pleased, but their constituents are not. About 300 demonstrators gathered outside the Parliament building with a few choice words for those inside, calling vote takers thieves.
America's housing sector is experiencing a good rise with growing index in 20 major cities in the country. Let's take a closer look on today's Daily Digit.
Your daily digit is 1.2%. Single-family home prices rose 1.2% in February, according to the closely watched S&P Case-Shiller Composite Index. It looks at home prices in 20 metropolitan U.S. cities. It's the biggest annual climb since May 2006 on a seasonally adjusted basis, and it tops forecasts calling for 0.9%. Housing is not succumbing to the slowdown being felt in other parts of the economy because it is not exposed to cutbacks in government spending, says David Blitzer of S&P Dow Jones Indices.
We have recently seen the first bit of the infamous sequester of federal cutbacks and so on, and that's probably one of the things that's weighing on the economy. But housing is mostly being driven by our friends at the Federal Reserve and their quantitative easing, and that's not part of the sequester by any means.
The biggest gains are in some of the cities hardest hit by the crisis, including Phoenix, Atlanta, and Las Vegas. And on average, national home prices are back to the levels from the autumn of 2003. What exactly is that price? Here's a clue. A separate report released earlier this month by the National Association of Realtors showed the median price of a previously owned home topping $184,000 for the month of March.
A post-election tension set off a brawl between lawmakers on Tuesday night, leaving one opposition assembly member badly bruised. A video from inside the National Assembly showed opposition politicians unfurling a banner as a fight broke out between legislators. An opposition assembly member said pro-government legislators threw punches after members of his coalition tried to protest a proposal which barred them from legislative activities. President Nicolas Maduro responded to the brawl by saying that the opposition was there to provoke a fight. Tuesday's fight was the second in which opposition legislators said the other side attacked them. Coming up in World News.